Hey, how you doing? Welcome to my hike. I'm on this trestle, having a good time, and on my outbound leg still, so I'm not quite yet at my turnaround point, but I'll be there soon. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoy it. Here's the big picture of Vancouver Island on the west coast of British Columbia, and the red circle is my hike location between Port Alberni and Parksville. Here's a close-in view of central Vancouver Island. The railway is shown with the little white squares. Those are the mile markers. And it's the Port Alberni subdivision that runs from right to left, Parksville to Port Alberni, and the red spot is where I hiked between the Alberni summit and Cameron Lake. Here's a close-in map showing the location, Cameron Lake, Highway 4 in white, and I've colored in black the railway. And my overall hike is in red, starts at milepost 20.6, goes to 16.6, and then return. So that's a nice 4 miles out, 4 miles back, and the total return distance in kilometers is 12.8. I call that 13. The start and end point of my hike is marked in the orange circle at the bottom of the map. That's really close to Highway 4 on the steep eastern slope of the Alberni summit. And there's my turnaround point, the orange circle at the top of the map. That's above the west end of Cameron Lake. And for part 1 of this series, here's the extent of my progress from mile 20.6 at the bottom up to milepost 18. Well, it's 4:52 a.m. Here I am, Highway 4, east side of Port Alberni summit, and it's time to start in on my hike. First time I've seen a boondocker here. My camera struggles with the autofocus because of the shiny rails and the bright sky along with the dark side views, so it just can't handle the contrast in this low light. One of the things I like to do on these hikes is check for changes. This little rock right here was new last time I was here, but there's a larger bit of rockfall just before the trestle here, mile 20.2. That is new to me. So this happened in the last 3.5 months, but it's not in a new area for rockfall, because here on the right, it's a bunch of rock that was cleared in earlier years. But this is new. And it comes from right there. These type of changes, rockfall, and I'm sure I'll see windfall, they're just natural parts of railroading in this area. There have always been issues over the years, since 1911, since this railway was constructed, and there always will be again. It's just a constant issue. Various times in this video, I'll be referencing a fiber optic cable project. That project happened in 2021 and first part of 2022 and impacted me in a good way because it cleared a lot of brush and windfall obstacles from the grade, making for a much nicer walk. I enjoy walking this trestle in the morning. It's always an early morning thing for me because it's near the start of this kind of a hike. And at the end of the trestle here, I like to turn around and take a look to see if Mount Arrowsmith is visible and then make a photograph. And here's the view at 5:09 a.m. I like it. Okay, that's good there. I'll see that in 4 hours or so on my return. Last time I was here, again 3.5 months ago, I heard a cougar chirp close by. They chirp a lot like birds, And that was my signal to keep moving. Here's the site of the Arrowsmith section house. House would have been right in front of me on some level ground. And coming up on the left at this corner is the Arrowsmith water tower site. Here's the water tower site. This is a sign telling us 19.6 the mileage, along with the Leonard Frank photo from 1911 showing the first train coming back from Alberni stopped here. And it's hard to see, but just on there. And there are the concrete forms that the water tower used to sit on. And of course the sound of the creek. Funny how there's always a creek nearby a water tower site. There's a few things in this scene at about mile 19.3. Recent rockfall, sometime in the last couple of years. A drop off with a retaining wall. This used to be a trestle site, and then a retaining wall was done and filled in. And it gives you an idea of the type of foliage growth that's starting to encroach again. In this case, maple tree. But it shows me that in spite of things being cleaned up for the fiber optic cable project 16 months ago, nature is constantly growing back. This is the second growing year after that. This area here, I usually get a sense of the morning light when I do a hike that starts before sunrise. Today is the kind of weather day that's supposed to be sunny with some cloudy periods. So I'm hopeful for good light for photography, and by that I mean not just straight out sun. But whatever it is, it will be. I'm just happy to be out here getting some exercise. This type of activity is really good for my physical and mental health. Here I'm approaching milepost 19. I got a thing for railway mileposts on these kinds of hikes because the signage reminds me that it's still held as a railway, and of course it gives me my progress on my hikes. I love this rock face that's coming up here. It's always one of my favorites to stop and enjoy the view. And then just beyond it is the second bridge structure for the day, mile 18.8 compound bridge. Yeah, it's good to have your favorite spots, and I enjoy this in all sorts of lighting. So it's a good time to mention the history here. The last train activity on the ENN was late 2001, and that was bringing cars and items out from the Port Alberni mill back to Nanaimo. That was after the mill switched to trucks for their freight work. And then a few weeks or days later, in early 2002, the mill switcher was brought out from Port Alberni, and that was it for train movement here. In the years since, there had been some official speeder tours, but the most recent one of those was June 2016. Hey, and I actually saw part of that. And here is the mile 18.8 compound bridge, so named because there's different parts to it. I'm currently on a timber frame trestle, and yes, the metal cable on the top of the deck is here. That's what the fiber optic workers used for safety, because it was a job site. And now here's the half depth girder something. This is just over a dry ravine. I like the sound here caused by the girders on either side. Let's take a look. Just came from there. It's a lovely time of the morning, very quiet, between 5 a.m. and 6. Hard to see, but right down there is some rails sticking out. They were used for rebar for this concrete abutment. And now I'm on the third portion. This is a timber pile trestle, very short. And then up ahead is a long stretch of retaining wall, because there used to be timber trestles back in the early days, and they just replaced it by pushing in the dirt. This will make a nice photograph. So this little windfall was here last time I was here. The big guy that's been chopped up, that came down maybe a couple years ago and left a kink in the rail. If you wonder how I remember all this, a couple things. One, I've got a near photographic memory for a lot of the fine detail stuff that I'm interested in. And I always watch my previous visit video the day before I do a hike like this, just to prep myself on what conditions were like last time. Here on my right was the Apennines siding, and that was removed, I think, in the 70s. So 4 years ago is when I first hiked here. That was June 2019. So I'm now in my 5th year of visiting here. And, sometimes I've been here, I've fussed a lot about wanting to be here in perfect lighting for photography. And other times, such as today, I'm a whole lot more relaxed and I'm just happy to be here. And my main goal is to be here and see what's new. But at this point, now in my 5th spring being here, I've seen a lot of stuff, and I've photographed most of it, and I've made videos in all the seasons, and so I'm happy with that legacy. And now I'm just doing updates, such as the big windfall up ahead, which is going to be one of those walk underneath type of windfalls. A lot of times these windfalls get cleared by people that I like to just call good recreational users of this corridor. People, who knows what, if it's motorbikes or ATVs, but if they got a chainsaw or handsaw, they're working to clear these things, and I'm very thankful for them. A few limbs still on there. I just have to be careful that I don't clunk my head or catch my pack. Okay, let's walk through. Always fun. Okay, so it's gonna be a fun tangle on the feet. Okay, let's be careful. Okay, about mile 18.3 or so. And again, that windfall is new to me in the last 3.5 months. But look at the nice lighting. Again, the morning sun is streaming in, so it's shadows, uneven lighting, but I don't need to worry about uneven light today. Contentment, it's a good thing. Now I'm coming up to the mile 18.1 trestle. This one is in very poor shape in terms of decking. A lot of the ties were very rotted, and so for the fiber optic cable project, they installed planks running lengthwise on the deck in order to spread out the weight load of the people and the equipment going across. There's a lot of crunchy give and go on this deck. Again, this is a trestle that I've seen a lot of changes to in the now 5 springs that I've seen it. just in terms of overgrowth and then growth being cut back, and now spring growth happening again with all these ferns. And the deck, there were 2 fire barrel platforms. This first one was on the left, and it was fallen down before I came here the first time. And then the other one was on the right hand side further up ahead, and it fell a few years ago. It was in poor shape. I'll show you a photo. But the creek is a nice sound. Hard to see. Let's go on the other side. Again, the ties are crumbly, soft, rotting. I'm on top of the stringer beam. Again, you can feel a lot of give on these planks. Fire barrel platform is down there, fell, and the fire barrel's down there too. When there's less foliage, it's a lot easier to see. This is just a short, deep ravine, relatively speaking. And I like to say that the only reason this trestle is notable for me is just the poor shape of it all. Makes it interesting. Yeah, until next time, which right now means a couple hours. And because that was the mile 18.1 trestle, you know that mile 18 post is around here. Where is it? Well, hard to see, but right there. Okay. Nice simple walk now until I get to the 4th and last crossing of the day on the way out. Thanks very much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed this. By the way, welcome to my home studio. In part 2 coming up, you'll see me walk to the next trestle and have some fun walking on this, and then peer over the edge, because of course that's the sensible thing to do. I'm really happy with my camera work in this one. I'll see you then. The completion of my editing and the upload of this video is 8 days after the start of a wildfire. That fire started about 12 hours after the end of my hike. Here's my overall map showing my hike with the red line, and the circle with the F is where the fire was at the time of this video's upload. And here's a closer look of my crudely drawn lines on the map showing the area of the hike and the fire. And here's the BC Wildfire website map of the area with the fire inside the red mark. And again, this is 8 days after the start of the fire, and the fire started about 12 hours after the end of my hike. This fire has resulted in the closure of Highway 4, seen in this map, and as a result, I would not be able to do this hike today, the day of uploading, or likely in the next few days or weeks. The possible date of the highway reopening is unknown at the time of this video's upload.